Alrighty, well, um, I'm making more fries because I liked the fries I had yesterday so much that I decided to make more. It's not a very nice day today. I'm here in the Camp Crazy dining tent. It's very rainy, just kind of drizzly and cold and windy. Not very pleasant at all. Anyway, it is what it is, though. Into every life a little rain must fall, as they say, and we have to take that along with the good times and the sunshine and all the rest of it. And the weather is going to get a lot worse before it gets better. Winter is coming. So as bad as today is, this is pretty good compared to some of the days we're going to have in the very near future. But once that's finished, springtime will come and it'll get better. That's all. Just what we got to go through, that's all. Anyway, I'll tell you a few more stories about our local police in my hometown. I told a story earlier about a prostitute who was being frequented by the police and was getting special favors from them and things like that, and how they tried to make a case against me and label me a sexual predator because they were afraid that I knew what they were doing. Which I didn't. I figured out what they were doing and found out what they were doing after they started the harassment. If they had just left me alone, I never would have known. And even if I had found out accidentally, I wouldn't have cared. It's none of my business, you know. Anyway, there's another part to that story I neglected to tell in the first video. And that is that they used to let that woman use the unmarked detective car. It was a black Chev Impala sedan, and they used to lend that to her to drive. So, you know, and I also found out, because again, once I start digging, I find things out, you know, and I also found out through a friend of hers that she didn't have a valid driver's license. Now, what would have happened had she caused an accident driving that car? How badly would the police have screwed over the other driver in order to cover up the fact that they were allowing somebody who was not police personnel and who was not driving the car because they were maintaining it like a mechanic or whatever, and not only that, but letting somebody who wasn't even legally licensed drive a police vehicle? I mean, you know damn well, if she had have run through a stop sign or done anything like that and hit somebody, the other person would have been crucified by the police. You know, the police would have just threw the book at them and blamed them and charged them with everything under the sun and just completely ruined that other person's life is what they would have done, you know. And anyway, that's where we find ourselves anyway, around my hometown. There was a lot of corruption like that. We had one police officer back in the 1980s, a local police officer, who used to shake down drug dealers. He'd shake down drug dealers and he'd take their drugs and he'd sell them behind the high school out of his patrol car. That actually happened. The cop was selling drugs that he took off drug dealers out of his patrol car behind the high school. Yeah. At one point, they were running a bribery scam, a bribery ring. And what they would do is they were targeting people in town who had older vehicles. And I'm one of the ones that got targeted. And this was in 2003. And I had a 1984 Chev Impala that was getting rough. Admittedly, it was getting rough, and I was going to buy another car. But I hadn't got around to buying another car yet. They come to my door, a female cop came to my door, accusing me of being in a hit-and-run accident in a private parking lot. And when I asked her how it was that she thought I had anything to do with a hit-and-run accident, she said, well, because it happened in this area, and you drive an old car, and your car is often in this area. And I said, what, so because I drive an old car, I'm a hit-and-run driver? That doesn't make any sense. And I said, of course my car's in this area. I live here. Whenever I'm home, you'll see my car here. What am I going to do? Park my car on the other side of town and walk home? It would kind of defeat the purpose of owning a car. And I told her, I said, if I knew where you lived, then I'll bet I would see your car near your house, in your driveway, or out front of your house, or whatever, when you're home. You know? I said, people do that. We're funny that way. We park near to where we live when we're home. Anyway, what it was, though, is she told me she wanted me to give her $700 cash. She said, it's not a police matter, and I said, it is a police matter. You're standing at my door in uniform, so it is a police matter. She says, well, if you just give me $700 in cash to give to the owner of the car you hit, then nothing will come of it. There'll be no more trouble. And I said, there's not going to be any more trouble anyway because I didn't hit anybody's car. And I said, paying for damages is an admission of guilt. I'm not guilty. Well, she said, it's only $700. I said, I don't care how much it is. I don't care if it's $7. I'm not paying it. I said, you need to find out who hit that person's car and go after them. I said, I didn't hit anybody's car. I told them, I said, I've never been in that parking lot. I said, that's a private parking lot. I don't pay to park there. I have no business going in there, and I don't go in there. I said, if I parked in there, I would be taking somebody's spot that they've paid for, that I'm not entitled to take. So I said, I don't go in there. That was true. I had never driven a car into that parking lot because it was not it wasn't my place. I didn't pay to park there. Anyway, a few days later, they come in the middle of the night and they took the license plates off my car. And in the morning they showed up and informed me that my car had no plates on it because they had taken them. They took my ownership papers. Well, they didn't take my ownership papers. They didn't have them. But they went to the Ministry of Transportation and they returned to my place a few hours later with a new ownership. The cop says, here's your revised ownership. Your car is now registered unfit. If you drive it, you will receive a $1,000 fine for driving an unfit vehicle. So this is what they did. They pulled the same thing on one of my neighbors who had an old pickup truck. I know another man in town they pulled the same thing on who also had an old pickup truck. He paid the damages. He paid the money to them, gave them the bribe. This was a bribery thing they were running, you know. I watched them one time try to put a man under arrest, a young man. He was out with his friends, standing on the street corner under my window, right near to the pay telephones where I talk about in the previous story with the prostitute. Anyway, this guy standing there with his friends, the police rolled up, ordered him into the car. Well, he and his friends started questioning them, say, why? Well, you're under arrest. Okay, but why am I under arrest? Well, because you're under arrest. Yeah, okay, but why am I under arrest? Well, because we told you you're under arrest. But what charge? What am I being charged with? You're being charged with resisting arrest because you're not complying. Well, complying with what, he said. You haven't told me why I'm being arrested. Well, you're being arrested for not complying with being arrested. Well, finally, one of his friends got into it and says, well, you can't just take him away like that. You have to tell him why you're arresting him. There has to be a reason for you to have stopped here and told him he's under arrest in the first place. Otherwise, it's not that he's not complying with an arrest, it's that he's not complying with being abducted. Because what you're doing now is you're trying to abduct this guy. You're not trying to arrest him, you're trying to abduct him. Well, the police, one of the cops went down the street and you could hear a garbage can being knocked over. Well, first thing is the cop says, well, for knocking over that garbage can down there. And the guy looks, he says, he didn't knock over that garbage can. We've been with him the whole time. And besides that, the garbage can isn't even knocked over. I can see it from here. It's standing upright. Nobody has knocked it over. So the cop went down the street, and then you could hear the garbage can being knocked over. You could hear it hitting the ground, being knocked onto its side. And then the cop comes back, and he says, well, it's on its side now. Then they handcuffed the guy. And when they put him in the police car, they knocked him to the ground. And they stomped and kicked him and everything else. And then they picked him up and put him in the back seat after they knocked him to the ground and stomped the crap out of him. And I saw that happen, you know. Anyway, this is the kind of stuff that was going on in my hometown with the police for years and years. I could tell all kinds of stories, but that's just some of it anyway. And yeah, it was pretty rough. But I had a lot of bad experiences with them. They come to my door one time. The same cop that tried to get the bribe from me came to my door. Of course, she was mad at me because I didn't pay the bribe, you know. And she come to my door and she said, I want to come in and look around in your apartment. And I said, do you have a warrant? She said, no, I didn't think I'd need a warrant. I'm the police. She said, don't tell me I need a warrant. I'm the police. And I said, well, you do need a warrant. And I said, you know, you can't just come in here and look around. I said, no, you need a warrant to come in here. Well, she says, that makes us wonder what you're doing in your apartment. And I said, you can wonder all you want, but I said, you're free to wonder. It's not for me to tell you what should go on in your mind. But I said, unless you have a warrant, you can't come in. Because I said, that's the law. And I closed the door then, you know. But this is the stuff that would go on. There was one time I was in a restaurant in town, and a couple of local cops were sitting at a nearby table having their lunch. And the two of them were sitting there comparing notes, comparing stories. And what they were doing is they were bragging to each other about how they had brutalized different people and how they had framed people up and everything, all the dirty tricks they'd played on people. And they were trying to outdo each other. If one said that he brutalized somebody this much, then the other one would say he brutalized somebody that much more. If one said he pulled a dirty trick on somebody to make them go to jail for something they didn't do, the other one would have an even better story about how he sent somebody up for even longer for something they didn't do. And the two of them were basically trying to out-douchebag each other. That's what it was, and I'm sitting at a table listening to this, and they knew I was there. They didn't care, you know, that I could hear them saying all this stuff. And there were other people in the restaurant, too, that could hear it. They couldn't have cared less. Anyway, that's just a little bit about the police in my hometown, anyway. I guess it's like that everywhere, but I can only speak about how it is where I come from and what I know, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that have similar stories anyway. But anyway, that's it for now. I'm making my fries. I'm pretty happy about that. I like my fries. So there you go. Anyway, we'll see you later. Got a long ways to go yet. We're making them. There you go. There's before and after. Before, after. Let's go inside and see Rocky for a minute while there's still a little time. It's going to run out very soon, though, this thing. There's Rocky. Hi, Rocky. Ooh. Ooh. Hey, there he is. Hey, you. Hi, beautiful boy. Hey. I don't know what you can see in the screen because I got the screen pointing away from me right now. But anyway, there's my beautiful Rocky. Yes, he is. He's wonderful. You're wonderful, Rocky. Yes, you are. Anyway, that's it for now. I hope you're all having a wonderful day. And Rocky and I will see you later. Isn't he beautiful? Okay? I'm blessed to have him, you know. My best friend. Bye for now.